What if I told you that the very vegetables you've been eating to protect your brain could be slowly setting you up for a stroke in your sleep? No pain, no warning. One moment, you're reading to your grandchild. The next, your words won't come out and your arm won't move. As a brain doctor, I've seen it far too often. Smart, careful seniors who do everything right. They eat clean, exercise, and take their vitamins, yet one day they wake up changed, or don't wake up at all. And the surprising culprit? Not sugar, not smoking. It's what's sitting quietly in your refrigerator right now. Today, I'll walk you through 9 common vegetables that, while considered healthy, may silently raise your risk of stroke, brain bleeds, or dangerous blood pressure drops when combined with age, medications, and nighttime biology. If you're over 60, this video may shock you, but it could also save your life. Because the truth is, after a certain age, even healthy food can turn against you if you don't know how your aging body works. So stay with me. What you hear next may change how you eat. Forever. Before we dive in, if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you hit that button and turn on the bell so you never miss another health tip made just for you. If you enjoy this video, type 1 in the comments. If not, type 0 to let me know how I can make better content for you. 1. Spinach. The hidden blood clot, risk for seniors on blood thinners. You've probably heard it your whole life. Eat your greens, they're good for you. And for many people, that's absolutely true. But after the age of 60, when your body starts changing, and especially when you're on certain medications, even healthy habits can become hidden hazards. One of the most surprising examples? Spinach. Yes, the same leafy green that's praised in health magazines, recommended by nutritionists, and found in countless superfood smoothies may silently be putting your life at risk, especially if you're taking blood thinners like warfarin, Coumadin, or even daily aspirin. Here's what most seniors don't know. Spinach is packed with vitamin K, a nutrient essential for helping your blood clot properly. That sounds like a good thing until it cancels out your medication. If you've been prescribed a blood thinner to prevent stroke, heart attack, or clot formation in your legs or lungs, your doctor has carefully calibrated your dose to keep your blood in a delicate balance, thin enough to prevent dangerous clots, but not so thin that you risk internal bleeding. But when you suddenly increase your intake of vitamin K, by eating large salads, drinking green smoothies, or switching to a new multivitamin, you throw off that balance. The clotting factors in your blood start to rise, and without any symptoms or warnings, a clot can quietly begin to form in your leg, in your lungs, or worst of all, in your brain. Let me tell you about Mr. Raymond Carter, a retired high school history teacher from Ohio, who came to my clinic after a minor stroke. He was 79, sharp as ever, loved crossword puzzles and jazz records. He'd been on warfarin for atrial fibrillation for years and was doing everything right. Until he read an article about the benefits of leafy greens and started blending spinach into his morning smoothies every day. Within weeks, his blood tests were off. His INR, a measure of how thin your blood is, dropped dangerously low. He didn't feel a thing. Until the morning he had trouble speaking and couldn't lift his left arm. Luckily, he was rushed to the ER and survived. But he now walks with a cane and says he feels like a piece of his brain just doesn't connect like it used to. When I asked about any diet changes, he proudly told me, "Just more spinach, doc. I was trying to do better." And that broke my heart, because he didn't do anything wrong, he just didn't know. No one warned him that spinach, as healthy as it seems, could undo the protection of his medication. The danger isn't just spinach. Kale, collard greens, Swiss chard, they're all high in vitamin K. The key isn't avoiding them completely, but keeping your intake consistent. The body, especially the aging body, craves stability, not spikes. A sudden increase or decrease in vitamin K can throw your entire clotting system off track. So here's my plea to you. If you're taking a blood thinner, don't change your diet drastically without talking to your doctor. Don't switch multivitamins without checking the label. And don't assume that natural means safe, especially not after 60. Because the stroke that takes your speech, your independence, your ability to walk, it doesn't always come from fast food, smoking, or laziness. Sometimes it comes from a green smoothie. And if you think that sounds frightening, what if I told you the next vegetable on this list could drop your blood pressure so low while you sleep, you collapse before you can call for help? Let's talk about kale and the risk that most seniors never see coming. If you're still watching and finding these insights helpful, please comment number 1 below to let me know you're with me. Now let's move on to point number 2. 2. Kale, the superfood that can cause dangerous blood pressure drops in seniors. You've seen it in every grocery store, every health magazine, every wellness article online. Kale is a superfood. It's marketed as the magic leaf that can fight aging, support your heart, improve digestion, and even prevent cancer. For many younger adults, those benefits may be true. But for seniors, especially those over 65, kale can quietly become a dangerous threat, especially if you're living with high blood pressure, heart disease, or are on multiple medications. As a brain doctor, I've treated too many older patients who were doing everything right, yet found themselves collapsing in the middle of the night or waking up dizzy, confused, or disoriented. And again, when I dug deeper, I found one common habit. They had added kale to their diet, believing it would protect their health, when in fact, it was tipping their system into chaos. Here's the part most people don't understand. Kale contains nitrates, natural compounds that help widen your blood vessels. For some people, that's a good thing. But in seniors whose cardiovascular systems are more sensitive, who often take blood pressure medications or diuretics, and who may already experience age-related drops in blood pressure during the night, these nitrates can cause an unsafe plunge in blood pressure. The result? You get out of bed in the morning and collapse before you even reach the bathroom. Or worse, you fall, hit your head, and never get back up. I remember a patient of mine, Mrs. Florence Green, a warm and vibrant 83-year-old widow from Michigan. She had started drinking green juice every night before bed, blending kale with apples and celery. She was trying to reset her system after watching a health documentary. She wasn't on a lot of medications, just a mild blood pressure pill and a calcium supplement, but she was dehydrated from the heat that summer and didn't realize that the combination of her nightly kale juice, her medication, and her age was creating a perfect storm. One morning, her neighbor found her on the floor. She had fainted in the kitchen around 6 a.m. while trying to get a glass of water. Her blood pressure was 82/46 when she arrived in the ER. She was lucky. She only had a bruised cheekbone and a mild concussion. But the trauma changed her. She lost her confidence. She no longer felt safe living alone. She gave up driving. She moved in with her daughter. And through tears, she told me, "Doctor, I just wanted to age better. I didn't know I was knocking myself down with a vegetable." This is the danger we don't talk about. Low blood pressure is just as dangerous as high blood pressure, especially in the elderly. It reduces blood flow to the brain. It increases the risk of fainting, falls, confusion, and mini strokes. It may not feel dramatic in the moment, but it changes lives, and not for the better. The message here isn't to fear kale, but to respect it. If you're taking blood pressure medications, if you feel lightheaded upon standing, or if you've recently added kale juice or salads into your evening routine, pay attention. You may be causing dips in your pressure that your heart and brain can't tolerate. Always take these changes to your doctor. And remember, more is not better. Not after 60. Your body needs balance, not overload. And if you think kale was surprising, wait until you hear what I'm going to tell you next. Because the next vegetable on our list is praised for improving blood flow, but in seniors, it can trigger silent organ damage, spike your blood pressure, and even mimic signs of a stroke. Yes, I'm talking about beets, and what you learn next might just save your life. 3. Beets, the heart-healthy vegetable that can quietly cause a dangerous drop in blood pressure while you sleep. Most people think of beets as a smart food, the kind of vegetable you eat when you're trying to take better care of your heart. Rich in nitrates, beets are often praised for improving circulation and lowering blood pressure. That's why you see beet juice in health stores, energy drinks with beet powder, and even supplements made from beet extract. It all sounds promising. And for younger adults with healthy kidneys and stable blood pressure, it often is. But after the age of 60, especially if you're on blood pressure medications, diuretics, or have even mild kidney issues, beets can become something very different, something dangerous. In fact, I've had patients end up in the emergency room because of the effects of this one innocent vegetable, taken at the wrong time and without proper medical guidance. Beets are high in nitrates, which the body converts into nitric oxide, a compound that dilates blood vessels and lowers blood pressure. That might sound great, especially if you're trying to reduce hypertension, but here's the problem. When combined with blood pressure medications, especially beta blockers or ACE inhibitors, this natural blood vessel dilation can go too far. The result? Your blood pressure can crash, not gradually, but suddenly and silently, especially while you sleep. One of my patients, Mr. Joseph Bennett, 76, from Arizona, was doing all the right things. He had recently started drinking beet juice every evening after reading about its heart benefits online. I wanted to stay off more pills, he told me, but Joseph was also taking lisinopril for high blood pressure, something he'd been stable on for over 5 years. What he didn't realize is that the combination of nighttime beet juice and his medication created a perfect storm. One night, around 2 a.m., Joseph got out of bed to use the bathroom. As he stood up, he collapsed. His wife found him unconscious, his face pale, pulse faint. At the ER, his blood pressure had dropped to 68/42, a level that could have caused brain damage if left untreated. Fortunately, he recovered, but days later he came to my office shaken. "Doc, I thought I was helping my heart. I didn't know I was almost shutting it down." The truth is, your body's natural systems work differently at night. Blood pressure naturally dips during sleep, and your nervous system relaxes. That's part of why nighttime is the most vulnerable time for seniors. Any additional dip in pressure can push you past the safety zone. And unlike younger people, your arteries after 65 are often stiffer, slower to respond, and less forgiving. Add dehydration, a light dinner, or a diuretic earlier in the day, and your cardiovascular system may not have the reserves to bounce back. A fall at night can mean more than a bruise. It can mean a broken hip, a head injury, or even a stroke from lack of oxygen to the brain. And that's not the only danger. Beets are also high in oxalates like kale and spinach, which can contribute to kidney stones and strain kidneys that are already working overtime in many seniors, especially those with diabetes or high blood pressure. Yet almost none of these risks are printed on labels or included in health blogs. The marketing tells you beets are natural and heart-friendly. But for aging adults, the key question isn't whether something is healthy, it's whether it's safe for you. Mr. Bennett has since removed beet juice from his evening routine. He now focuses on whole, balanced meals and walks in the morning. He still wants to live a long, independent life,
but he now knows that natural doesn't mean harmless. So if you've been adding beet juice to your diet, especially at night, or mixing it with blood pressure meds, I urge you, check with your doctor. Your heart is only as safe as the system that supports it, and that system becomes more delicate with age. And if that story surprised you, wait until you hear about the vegetable that's quietly flooding millions of seniors with hormone-like compounds, interfering with thyroid function and possibly affecting stroke risk in women over 65. Let's talk about soy and the endocrine trap it can quietly trigger. If you're still watching and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 1 below to let me know you're here. Now let's keep going with point number 4. 4. Soy sprouts, the hormonal trigger that may quietly raise stroke risk, especially for postmenopausal women. In recent years, soy has gained a reputation as a heart-healthy, plant-based protein, embraced by vegetarians, dieters, and older adults alike. Soy sprouts in particular are often seen as a low-calorie, nutritious addition to salads, stir-fries, and even smoothies. But for many seniors, especially women over 60, what you're not being told could be putting you at risk for something far more serious than indigestion or a mild allergy. What many people don't realize is that soy sprouts contain plant-based estrogen-like compounds called phytoestrogens. These compounds can mimic human estrogen in the body, and while that might seem like a helpful hormone boost for women after menopause, the reality is far more complex and more dangerous than you may think. After menopause, the body's estrogen levels naturally decline. For many women, this transition can bring symptoms like hot flashes, mood swings, and changes in cholesterol. But it also changes how the body manages blood pressure, clotting, and inflammation. Introducing external estrogenic substances, even from plants, can interfere with this delicate hormonal balance, especially when combined with existing medications for blood pressure, cholesterol, or blood thinning. I'll never forget Mrs. Jeanette Morgan, a 72-year-old retired nurse from Colorado. She had taken care of others her whole life and wanted to age gracefully without relying on hormone replacement therapy. So, she turned to food. After reading an article about natural ways to rebalance hormones, she began adding a handful of soy sprouts to her lunch every day, along with drinking soy milk and snacking on edamame in the evening. For months, she felt great, even energized. But slowly, subtle changes crept in. Her blood pressure became erratic. She started experiencing frequent headaches, a strange pressure behind her eyes, and occasional numbness in her fingertips. She brushed it off as stress or aging until one morning, while folding laundry, she collapsed. Her husband found her on the floor, confused and slurring her words. She had suffered a small but serious ischemic stroke. In the hospital, her doctors were puzzled. Jeanette had no major risk factors. She was active, didn't smoke, and ate what most would call a healthy diet. But when we reviewed her labs and lifestyle in detail, one red flag stood out: a significant shift in her clotting profile, one that was most likely influenced by excess phytoestrogens, altering her vascular tone and blood coagulability. Here's what happened. In postmenopausal women, introducing high amounts of phytoestrogens can sometimes trigger hypercoagulability, a state where the blood clots more easily than it should. Combine that with slightly stiffened arteries due to age and possibly mild dehydration or a sedentary evening, and the perfect storm is created for a stroke. Jeanette was shocked. "I thought I was nourishing my body," she told me tearfully. "I never imagined I was playing with hormones." And that's the tragedy. She wasn't reckless. She wasn't binging on junk food. She was making decisions based on good intentions and misleading information. Like so many older adults today, she was trying to age naturally, but doing it in a way that her body, her older body, couldn't handle safely. Soy can be beneficial in small amounts, but for seniors, particularly postmenopausal women or those with a history of clotting disorders, stroke, or high blood pressure, daily soy sprouts, soy milk, and tofu in large quantities may do more harm than good. These plant hormones can subtly shift blood chemistry, especially if you're taking medications like warfarin, Plavix, or hormone-sensitive prescriptions. And you might never feel it, May Jane, until a blood vessel closes off in your brain and changes your life forever. Jeanette recovered after months of physical therapy, but her handwriting never fully returned, and her speech remained slightly slurred. She now keeps a simple rule. If I don't understand how it works in my body, I don't eat it every day. And I encourage you to do the same. Always ask yourself, is this food made for my age, my medications, and my unique risks? Because aging doesn't mean stopping. It means getting smarter about every choice we make. Now, if that makes you think twice about soy, wait until you hear what I have to say about a vegetable you've probably had in your fridge for years. One that's salty, tangy, and deceptively familiar, but quietly wreaking havoc on your blood pressure and arteries. Let's talk about pickled vegetables and how they might be setting the stage for a stroke with every bite.
5. Pickled vegetables. The salty tradition that could quietly raise your stroke. Risk. There's something nostalgic about pickled vegetables. Crunchy cucumbers, tangy sauerkraut, spicy kimchi. For many older adults across America, these foods aren't just condiments, they're traditions. A jar of pickles on the dinner table, a few slices of pickled beets in a salad, or fermented cabbage passed down from a family recipe. These things feel comforting, familiar, even healthy. But for seniors, especially those with high blood pressure or on heart medications, these salty favorites can carry a deadly secret. Most people don't realize that pickled vegetables, no matter how natural or organic the label, are often loaded with sodium. And as we age, our bodies become more sensitive to salt. What once caused only mild bloating in your 40s can now cause dangerous spikes in blood pressure, fluid retention, and even trigger mini strokes in your 70s or 80s, often with no warning at all. I remember a patient of mine, Mr. Harold Dempsey, an 81-year-old Korean War veteran from Indiana. A proud man, fiercely independent, and a fantastic storyteller. Harold had no history of smoking or drinking, and his diet, by most standards, was reasonable. But every day he ate pickled vegetables, homemade pickled okra, green beans, and sauerkraut, recipes passed down from his mother. He believed in natural food and trusted what came from his own kitchen. When Harold first came to my clinic, he had experienced sudden dizziness, vision blurring, and slurred speech. His family thought it might be a blood sugar issue, but his labs were stable. What wasn't stable was his blood pressure. It was bouncing wildly between 180, 100, and 90/60 throughout the day. This pattern, known as labile hypertension, is incredibly dangerous. When blood pressure fluctuates like that, tiny vessels in the brain can rupture or become blocked, causing silent strokes or transient ischemic attacks, warning signs of a much larger event to come. As we dug into Harold's lifestyle, we found the hidden culprit: sodium. He was consuming over 3,500 millisieverts of salt per day, more than double the recommended limit for someone his age. And almost all of it came from his beloved pickled vegetables. He had no idea that just half a cup of sauerkraut can contain more than 900 milliliters of sodium, or that one spear of homemade pickled cucumber could exceed 300 milliliters. These foods weren't just seasoning his meals. They were silently stressing his blood vessels and inflaming his arteries every single day. He looked at me with disbelief. "Doc, I thought I was eating old-fashioned food. Real food. My mama lived to 92 on this stuff. And I understood. But what Harold and so many others don't always realize is that our bodies at 80 aren't the same as they were at 40 or 50. Arteries stiffen, kidneys don't filter as well. The brain becomes more vulnerable to pressure changes. What worked for your parents' generation may not work for you, especially when combined with modern medications and chronic conditions like atrial fibrillation or hypertension. After cutting back on pickled foods, Harold's blood pressure stabilized within weeks, but the damage had already begun. He now walks with a slight limp from a series of minor strokes, strokes he didn't even feel as they happened. So here's what I want you to know. Salt isn't just in chips or processed meats. It's hidden in the foods we love, the ones we never think to question. And while pickled vegetables can be enjoyed in moderation, they should never be a daily staple. Not after 60, and especially not if you're managing high blood pressure, kidney disease, or taking blood thinners. If you're waking up with headaches, experiencing swelling in your ankles, or noticing your blood pressure creeping up despite taking your medications, take a look at your jar of pickles. That little crunch could be echoing through your arteries more than you realize. And if you think sodium is the only silent threat hiding in your fridge, think again. Because next, I'll show you how one seemingly innocent vegetable, loved for its color and used in thousands of kitchens, could quietly trigger dangerous potassium buildup and interfere with your heart rhythm. Let's talk about tomatoes and what every senior needs to know before their next salad.
6. Tomatoes. The bright red fruit that could quietly disrupt your heart, rhythm, and raise stroke risk. Tomatoes are a staple in almost every American kitchen. From pasta sauces and salads to sandwiches and soups, they're praised for being heart healthy, rich in antioxidants, and low in calories. Many seniors even associate tomatoes with lower cancer risk, improved immunity, and better skin. But what very few older adults know, and what almost no one is warning you about, is that tomatoes can quietly become a serious threat to your heart and brain health, especially after age 65. You see, tomatoes are very high in potassium, a mineral your body absolutely needs, but only in the right balance. For seniors, especially those with decreased kidney function or those taking medications for high blood pressure or heart disease, that balance can become fragile. What begins as a healthy diet can turn into potassium overload. And when that happens, the consequences aren't just cramps or fatigue, they can be lethal. Let me tell you about Mrs. Edna Talbot, a 78-year-old widow from North Carolina and one of the kindest women I've ever met. She had always tried to eat clean, follow her doctor's advice, and manage her hypertension naturally. Every morning, she made a beautiful breakfast, scrambled egg whites, half an avocado, and a glass of homemade tomato juice, fresh from her garden tomatoes. She believed in eating the rainbow, and red, she said, was the color of strength. Over time, Edna began noticing strange symptoms: a flutter in her chest, moments where she felt her heart skipping a beat, and occasional nausea that came out of nowhere. At first, she thought it was stress. Then her hands started tingling. One afternoon, while folding laundry, she collapsed. Her heart was in a dangerous arrhythmia and she was rushed to the ER. Her lab showed elevated potassium levels, not from supplements, not from pills, but from daily consumption of tomatoes, tomato juice, and even tomato soup. Combined with her lisinopril, a common blood pressure medication that also raises potassium retention, her kidneys simply couldn't excrete the excess. The result? Her heart's electrical signals began misfiring and her rhythm fell out of sync. What could have been dismissed as harmless heart palpitations became a direct path toward a potential stroke or sudden cardiac event. When Edna looked at me in recovery, she asked in disbelief, "Doctor, how could something from my own garden do this to me?" And I could only answer her with the truth that so many people, even health professionals, forget to share with older adults. Your body changes as you age. What once was medicine becomes a risk. What once healed can now harm. Here's what many seniors don't know. The recommended daily potassium intake for older adults is around 2,600 to 3,000 milligrams per day, but a single cup of tomato juice can contain over 500 milligrams. Add in potassium-rich foods like bananas, potatoes, beans, or avocados, plus the potassium your medications are causing you to retain, and you're suddenly in the danger zone, especially if your kidneys aren't filtering efficiently. And you may not know your kidneys are struggling. Early kidney decline is often silent, no pain, no symptoms, no clue, until the electrolyte imbalance tips the scale. The real danger lies in how subtle it feels until it's too late. An irregular heartbeat, a moment of weakness, a slight headache. By the time you're in the ER, the damage has already begun. Edna now limits her tomato intake and has her potassium levels monitored regularly. She's regained her strength, but her confidence took longer to come back. She still gardens, but with caution. I still love red, she says, but now I respect it. So I urge you, if you're over 65, especially if you're on ACE inhibitors, diuretics, or have any history of heart or kidney issues, do not assume fresh and natural means harmless. Monitor your potassium. Pay attention to small changes in your heartbeat, digestion, or mood. And always, always tell your doctor what you're eating regularly. Because what's growing in your garden may be more than just food. It may be tipping your body into imbalance without you realizing it. And if you thought potassium was a hidden threat, wait until you learn about the next vegetable, one that belongs to the nightshade family, and for some people, may quietly trigger inflammation and even bleeding in the brain. Let me tell you the truth about eggplant, and why it's not as innocent as it looks. If you're still watching and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 1 below to let me know you're here. Now let's keep going with point number 7. 7. Eggplant. The nightshade vegetable that could quietly trigger inflammation and brain bleeds in sensitive seniors. Most people think of eggplant as a harmless, even exotic vegetable, a staple in Mediterranean diets, full of antioxidants, fiber, and low in calories. You'll find it grilled at summer barbecues, layered in lasagna, or pureed into dips at family gatherings. For many older adults trying to eat less meat or follow a heart-healthy lifestyle, eggplant seems like a smart, satisfying choice. But what most seniors don't realize is that eggplant belongs to the nightshade family, a group of vegetables that also includes tomatoes, potatoes, and peppers. And in certain people, especially those over 65, these vegetables can silently ignite inflammation, thin the blood unpredictably, and potentially raise the risk of brain bleeds and mini strokes. The culprit behind this danger lies in a natural chemical called solanine, a glycoalkaloid compound found in nightshades. In small amounts, it's harmless. But in sensitive individuals, or in those already taking blood thinners like aspirin, warfarin, or Plavix, solanine can contribute to vascular fragility and increased bleeding risk, particularly in tiny aging blood vessels inside the brain. I'll never forget Mr. Arthur Delgado, a 74-year-old retired truck mechanic from New Mexico. He came to my clinic after experiencing a sudden severe headache while watching television. His daughter said he grabbed his head, stood up to speak, but only a few jumbled words came out. A CT scan revealed a small hemorrhage, a microbleed in the left parietal lobe of his brain. He had no history of trauma, and his blood pressure was stable. As we reviewed his lifestyle, one detail stood out. Arthur had recently begun eating grilled eggplant every night. He'd read in a magazine that it was good for cholesterol and digestion. But what he didn't know was that he was also on a daily aspirin regimen. And with age, the protective lining in his vessels had weakened. The combination of solanine exposure and daily blood thinning likely created the perfect storm. His vessels, fragile and inflamed, simply gave way. He asked me through tears, "Doc, how could a vegetable do this to me? I wasn't eating junk. I was trying to get healthy." That moment broke my heart, not because he made a mistake, but because he didn't know the rules had changed. At 40, Arthur could eat whatever he wanted, but at 74, his brain, his blood, and his medications were all working on a different playing field. What looks like a healthy plate can quickly become a dangerous mix when the aging body isn't part of the conversation. Now, not everyone is sensitive to nightshades. An eggplant in moderation for many people is perfectly safe. But if you're over 65, on blood thinners, or have a personal or family history of aneurysms or microbleeds, repeated exposure to high solanine foods may add fuel to a quiet fire. Early warning signs aren't always dramatic. You might notice mild confusion, frequent unexplained headaches, or changes in coordination, all things that can be easily blamed on getting older, but might actually be early signals of vascular stress in the brain. And when combined with other risk factors like dehydration or high sodium intake, even a small blood vessel leak can become a life-altering event. Arthur is recovering now, but he's more cautious and more informed. I read every label now. I ask questions because I don't want to be surprised by my own dinner again. So I urge you, don't just look at what's on your plate. Look at how it might interact with your age, your medications, and your brain. The food that helps your neighbor may harm you simply because your body needs something different now. And if you think this sounds extreme, let me ask you this. What if the very food you rely on to stay regular, calm your nerves, and ease nighttime muscle cramps is secretly setting you up for a dangerous fall or even unconscious collapse? In our next section, I'll tell you the surprising truth about magnesium-rich vegetables like leafy greens and how they can cause your blood pressure to drop so low at night you may never hear the sound of yourself hitting the floor. 8. Magnesium, rich leafy greens, the natural calmers that may quietly drop your blood pressure too low while you sleep. If you've been told to eat your greens, you're not alone. For decades, leafy greens like Swiss chard, spinach, and beet greens have been promoted as miracle foods, packed with fiber, antioxidants, and essential minerals like magnesium. And for many older adults, these vegetables seem like the ultimate natural remedy, helping with digestion, easing muscle cramps, and promoting relaxation before bed. But here's what most seniors don't realize, and what too few doctors explain. Magnesium-rich vegetables, especially when consumed in large amounts or at night, can quietly and dangerously lower your blood pressure while you sleep. And in a body that's already aging, medicated, and vulnerable to sudden drops in circulation, this can lead to dizziness, fainting, dangerous falls, or even stroke. Let me share the story of Mrs. Lillian Hooper, a 79-year-old retired piano teacher from Maine. She was sharp, elegant, and meticulous with her health. She didn't smoke, exercised lightly each morning, and followed a strict Mediterranean-style diet. Concerned about nighttime leg cramps, she began blending a smoothie every evening with raw spinach, almond milk, and a banana. A magnesium powerhouse, praised by wellness blogs for calming the nervous system. She thought she was doing everything right. But just a few weeks into her new routine, Lillian began waking up in the middle of the night with lightheadedness. She dismissed it as stress or dehydration. Then, one early morning, she got out of bed to use the bathroom and collapsed. Her head struck the tile floor. She was found by a neighbor hours later, barely conscious, bruised, and confused.
When she arrived in the ER, her blood pressure had plummeted to 82/48. No heart attack, no stroke, yet. But her vagal tone had overreacted, and her blood vessels, widened by high magnesium intake and her usual blood pressure medication, had relaxed too much. Her brain wasn't getting enough blood. Her kidneys had slowed overnight, and the natural dip in nighttime pressure combined with leafy greens had turned into a silent threat. Lillian survived, but she now walks with a cane and lives with the fear that something so simple could have taken everything from her. As a neurologist, I see this pattern more often than you'd think. After the age of 65, your body handles minerals, especially magnesium and potassium, very differently. Your kidneys filter more slowly, your blood vessels become more sensitive, and your medications, ACE inhibitors, beta blockers, diuretics, can interact with your diet in ways that weren't dangerous when you were 50, but become critical now. And leafy greens are potent. 1 cup of cooked spinach contains nearly 160 milliliters of magnesium. Beet greens and Swiss chard, even more. When you pair that with supplements, fortified drinks, or medications like amlodipine or lisinopril, it's easy to slip into hypotension, low blood pressure, especially at night when your body naturally relaxes. But the real danger isn't just the number on a blood pressure cuff, it's the fall. For older adults, a single fall can break a hip, cause a brain bleed, rob you of your independence, or worse. And the worst part, you never see it coming. You go to bed healthy, and you wake up on the floor. Lillian now avoids magnesium-rich greens at dinner. She still eats spinach, but at lunch in moderation, and always talks with her doctor before adding anything new. I thought I was relaxing my muscles, she told me, but I didn't know I was relaxing my blood too much. So here's my advice to you. Don't fear greens, but do respect them. Eat them earlier in the day. Monitor your blood pressure. Be aware of every supplement and medication you take, and never assume natural means safe. Not after 65 and not with a heart and brain that deserve better. Because sometimes the very thing you take to sleep more soundly can leave you unconscious for all the wrong reasons. And if you think leafy greens are the last surprise on this list, you're mistaken. There's still one more vegetable that seems harmless, even boring, but may quietly interfere with your circulation, thicken your blood, and cancel out your medications without you feeling a thing. Let's talk about celery and why it may not be as safe as you've been led to believe. 9. Celery, the heart-healthy snack that can quietly cancel out your medication and raise your stroke risk. When most people think of celery, they think safe. It's crunchy, low-calorie, full of water, and a favorite among health-conscious eaters. For older adults watching their weight, blood sugar, or blood pressure, celery seems like the perfect guilt-free snack. Dip it in a little peanut butter or add it to soup, and it feels like a smart choice. Natural, simple, and clean. But here's what most seniors don't know. Celery isn't just water and fiber. It contains compounds that act as natural diuretics, meaning they help your body expel water and sodium, similar to the effect of certain medications. That might sound like a good thing, especially for someone with high blood pressure. But when you're already on prescription diuretics or blood pressure medications, adding high amounts of celery can push your body too far, too fast, resulting in electrolyte imbalances, low blood pressure, and blood that clots too easily or not at all, depending on your overall health and medication profile. I want to tell you about Mr. Douglas Riley, a 75-year-old retired woodworker from Pennsylvania, a tough, practical man who loved gardening and made his own soup every Sunday from scratch. He came to my clinic after suffering a mini stroke, sudden slurred speech, dizziness, and numbness in his right hand. Fortunately, His symptoms passed within an hour, but the event left him deeply shaken. He didn't smoke, his cholesterol was under control, and he walked daily. On paper, he was doing everything right. But in going through his diet and medication list, one detail stood out. Douglas had recently started eating 2 to 3 large stalks of celery every day, raw in the afternoon and cooked in soup at night, after reading online that it naturally lowers blood pressure. What he didn't know was that he was already taking hydrochlorothiazide, a diuretic prescribed by his cardiologist. The combination of that medication plus the natural diuretic effect of celery was dehydrating him subtly but significantly, lowering his blood pressure during the night and thickening his blood during the day due to reduced plasma volume. That's when it hit me. His INR, a measure of how long it takes blood to clot, had been swinging, not because of his medications alone, but because his blood volume and pressure were unstable, manipulated by food and medicine pulling in the same direction. His mini stroke wasn't caused by a clot or cholesterol. It was caused by volume depletion and vascular strain. His brain simply wasn't getting the oxygen it needed at a critical moment. When I explained the connection, he looked stunned. "You're telling me celery? My soup? That's what did this?" "Yes, because when your body is older, even something as innocent as celery isn't neutral anymore. It interacts, it influences. It either supports your balance or throws it off entirely." Douglas had no idea he was creating a dangerous drop in blood volume and pressure every evening. He was trying to follow the rules, eat healthy, stay active, but no one had told him how fragile the balance becomes after 70 done. He now eats celery occasionally, but not daily, and never in large amounts. His blood pressure has stabilized, his energy is better, and he told me just last month, "Doc, I learned the hard way. Even the good stuff can go bad if you don't know what you're doing." Celery isn't evil. None of the vegetables we've talked about are. But once you're past 65, your body becomes a delicate system of moving parts, and any one change in medication, hydration, or diet can ripple through your brain, your heart, and your blood vessels in ways you never felt in your younger years. So if you followed along this far, you might be wondering, with so many healthy foods carrying hidden risks, what should older adults actually do to protect their brain, their heart, and their independence? What's the right way to eat and live after 60? Let's talk about that next. Because the answer isn't fear, it's wisdom. And it starts with one powerful question: what should seniors do instead? 10. So, what should seniors do instead? After hearing how even the healthiest looking vegetables, spinach, kale, beets, soy, tomatoes, eggplant, celery, can become dangerous when eaten in the wrong way or combined with certain medications, many seniors feel overwhelmed. I've seen the fear in their eyes, the worry in their voices. "Doc, if all these foods can hurt me, what am I supposed to eat?" That's the question I get more than any other. And the truth is, your body after 60 doesn't need more fear. It needs smarter care. You don't need to eliminate everything. You need to understand how to work with your aging body, not against it. The goal isn't to live in fear of food. The goal is to simplify, stabilize, and support your health using the principles that your body, especially your older body, truly thrives on. Let me tell you about Mrs. Marjorie Lane, a 77-year-old retired school librarian from Michigan. When she first came to my clinic, she brought a full paper bag of supplements and a handwritten list of every vegetable she ate in a week. She was exhausted, mentally foggy, and scared. Her blood pressure was bouncing, she had fallen twice in 3 months, and she was terrified of losing her independence. "I'm trying so hard, doctor," she told me, "but I feel like the more I try,
the worse I feel. So we started with one word: declutter. We removed every non-essential supplement, anything not backed by her blood work or medical need. We reviewed her medications. We simplified her meals. She stopped drinking green juices and energy teas. She started eating small, balanced meals with ingredients her grandmother would recognize: poached eggs, roasted sweet potatoes, steamed broccoli, salmon, lentils, berries, oatmeal. Nothing exotic, nothing extreme, just real food, timed right. Instead of leafy greens at night, she ate them at lunch. Instead of raw vegetables, she cooked most of them to reduce their potency. She drank water consistently through the day, not just when she felt thirsty. She walked 10 minutes in the morning and stretched while brushing her teeth. She didn't push harder, she moved smarter. And something amazing happened. Her balance improved. Her blood pressure stabilized. Her mind cleared. Within 2 months, she was reading again, sleeping better, and no longer afraid of her own body. She told me with tears in her eyes, "I feel like I came home to myself." That's what I want for you. So what should seniors do instead? First, get lab work before starting any supplement, and especially vitamins D, B12, potassium, or magnesium. Don't guess. Know what your body actually needs. Second, eat for balance, not trends. Prioritize cooked vegetables over raw. Avoid mega portions of any one food. Rotate your greens. Time your meals so that blood pressure lowering foods don't dominate your dinner plate. Third, hydrate daily, move gently, and rest consistently. The older brain and heart don't respond to chaos. They respond to rhythm. And most importantly, work with your doctor, not against them. Share your full list of supplements and diet changes. Ask questions. Stay curious. The best medicine after 60 is awareness, not pills. You don't need more complexity. You need clarity. You don't need 15 supplements. You need one good plan. And you don't need to live in fear of food. Just be wise about what you eat, when you eat it, and how your body responds. Because here's the truth: the right food, at the right time, in the right body, becomes medicine. But even the best food, in the wrong context, can become poison. And now that you know this, you might be wondering, if balance is the answer, then what does a truly brain-healthy day look like for someone in their 60s, 70s, or 80s? From morning to bedtime, what should we actually do? Let's walk through that together, because the final key to protecting your brain may be simpler, more beautiful, and more powerful than you ever imagined. Simplicity, wisdom, and the power of gentle change. After hearing everything we've covered, the hidden risks in everyday vegetables, the way age changes how our bodies react to food, and the stories of real people who suffered not from recklessness but from good intentions, I hope you're left with more than just fear. I hope you're left with clarity. Because the real message is this: your body is not broken. It's just different. It's more sensitive, more reactive, and more in need of care that's tailored to where you are today, not where you were 20 years ago. You see, getting older doesn't mean giving up. It means waking up to what your body truly needs now. And the good news? What it needs is often much simpler than you've been told. It needs consistency, not extremes. It needs nourishment, not novelty. It needs you to stop chasing superfoods and start honoring the quiet wisdom of balance. Real food, in real portions, eaten at the right time. Movement that's gentle but regular. Sleep that follows a steady rhythm. And yes, the courage to ask your doctor, is this still right for me? Every time you change something. The truth is, many of the seniors I treat aren't harmed by fast food or alcohol. They're harmed by well-meaning decisions made without enough guidance, a vitamin taken at night instead of morning, a smoothie that pushes blood pressure too low, a vegetable that interferes silently with medication. But here's the hopeful part. You have the power to change that. By learning, by slowing down, by listening to your body and speaking up when something doesn't feel right. I think of patients like Marjorie, Arthur, and Lillian, not as cautionary tales, but as reminders of how quickly things can turn when we don't fully understand our own bodies and how quickly they can heal when we do. So let this be your turning point, not toward fear, but toward informed simplicity. Eat thoughtfully, move with purpose, rest deeply, ask more questions, take fewer pills when you can, and trust that gentle, steady care will carry you farther than any trendy diet ever could. You've made it to this chapter of life. You've endured, loved, built, and survived. Now, it's time to protect what matters most: your independence, your clarity, your ability to keep living on your own terms. Because aging isn't the end of vitality, it's the beginning of wisdom. And that wisdom starts now, with you. These lessons are meant to inspire you to live fully and authentically. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Take a moment to reflect and share one thing you've learned and plan to apply in your own life. Let's support each other on this journey toward embracing these truths. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment with 1. If not, feel free to comment with 0. Your feedback means a lot to us. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content like this. Thank you for watching, and here's to living life on your own terms.